Hello, everybody. My name is Kelsey Hoskins. I am a senior studying English literature at Purdue University. Last semester, I began my capstone project with Dr. Christina Bross, and through her, I was introduced to the man who inspired my project, Thomas Gage. As I was beginning to introduce myself to Thomas Gage, I first looked into a Wikipedia article to find more information on him. This was a relatively easy process, and one that only took mere seconds to produce search results. However, when I was looking at the languages that offer articles that are similar to the English article, I noticed that there was no Spanish language option. This missing article led to a semester-long research project over Thomas Gage, who I deemed the Invisible Man, and this presentation is how I've translated early modern scholarship into a Wikipedia page. This first image is the English language, the Wikipedia page that I initially Googled while beginning my search for information on Thomas Gage. It is one of the top results, and it takes just mere seconds to gain access to. If you look for this and use the keywords Thomas Gage, Dominican friar, or Thomas Gage, priest, it will come up as the very first result. As you can see, it is a pretty lengthy article by the content box, and it offers plenty of information for readers who are just starting to research this topic. However, any equivalent of this article is not found in the Spanish language Wikipedia. This second image is the first result in the Spanish language Wikipedia page for Thomas Gage. It is the incorrect search result, but it is the only one that is currently present. This Thomas Gage is a British commander-in-chief, which is obviously not relevant to the information that I was searching for. In this photo, you can see that it has a full content box as well, which means that it offers plenty of information to the researcher. This third attempt was my very last attempt to find Thomas Gage in the Spanish Wikipedia. It is spelled using a traditionally Hispanic version of the name Thomas. This search yielded me no results. I also conducted searches using different spellings of his name. I even used the name given to him by the Dominican missionaries, which was Tomás de Santa Maria. And these searches turned up just as empty-handed as all the others. I then returned to English Wikipedia and began to conduct my initial research over Thomas Gage and who he was as a person. Thomas Gage was born to an aristocratic English family in 1603. His father wanted him to be a Jesuit and sent him to Catholic schools in Spain, first at the English Jesuit College of St. Omer, and then at the English College at Valladolid. Gage then refused his schooling and his father's wishes and joined a group of Dominican missionaries. He traveled abroad for 12 years, visiting places in Mexico, and eventually making his way into Guatemala. During his travels, he kept notes on the languages, the cultures, and even the religious beliefs that he encountered. These notes were later turned into his book, The English American, a new survey of the West Indies. Thomas Gage was an interesting individual, and when we lay out just a few of his accomplishments, it begins to raise red flags as to why he is not listed in the Spanish Wikipedia. My research focused on developing and answering 3 questions. The first of these questions is, why was Thomas Gage present in the English Wikipedia, but not the Spanish Wikipedia? The best answer that I could come up with is because Spanish language scholarships often paired Gage as a villainous individual. He was often called a heretic and his actions were reprimanded. This is because Gage had a Catholic education from Spain. Yet, he used his travel writings to support Oliver Cromwell. Cromwell was an English general, but more importantly, Cromwell was known as the Lord Protector during the interregnum, after the parliamentarian forces had already executed King Charles I. Thomas Gage also used his knowledge of other Catholics that he had acquired from his early family life and educational experiences and he gave this information to the British government. These Catholics were often executed for their betrayal to the throne and the religion. This was all the while that Gage was uncertain and questioning his own religious beliefs and where he belonged. I believe that he is in the English language Wikipedia because of his contributions to the English people and his writings of the New World. These actions were often seen as progressive and influential to the English people, as opposed to how he turned his back on Spain. I am confident that all of this plays a very small role into his execution from Spanish history. The second research question that I formed was, why is this information so hard to find, and why are there accessibility issues? Information on Thomas Gage is difficult to find in Spanish scholarship, but it is much easier to find in English scholarship. The main issues that I ran into while looking for Spanish scholarship on Gage was one-word mentions that often led to dead ends, material hidden behind paywalls, and older journals not having digital copies of resources online. The final question that combines the first two is, what can I do to change this? I am only one individual, but thanks to the internet and places like Wikipedia, people can now share information publicly for free. I decided that I wanted to make Thomas Gage public knowledge on the Spanish language Wikipedia. In order to do so, I contacted people that work for journals and asked for specific articles that were not accessible online. Many times I was told no, or they did not have access to it anymore either. There was a few times, though, that I was granted the information containing an article or a small mention that I needed. It was then that I realized that this accessibility issue is more prominent to those who are not working on a project like this, or to people in the general public outside of the scholarly community. After I had everything I needed, I began working on my approach to solving this problem. My method was relatively straightforward. It was to look for any Spanish and English scholarship that discussed Thomas Gage, and I processed that information. The next step was to complete the research and put it into an easy, balanced, and informational fashion. This step was the most difficult. It required sifting through two biased perspectives of Gage, and then trying to decide what was the truest account of an event. Just to give a small taste of the types of details that were sorted through, let's look at Thomas Gage's birthday. In English language scholarship, it was often listed as 1603, but in multiple Spanish language scholarships, it was listed as 1602. In my article, I chose 1603, but in order to mitigate, I wrote 1603 with a question mark right behind it in order to show that it is something that can be questionable or uncertain. Once this type of decision-making process was repeated over and over with each detail, it was time to make this accessible and to as many people as I possibly could, especially those within the Spanish-speaking online Wikipedia community who previously did not have this access to knowledge of Gage. In order to make this free, accessible, and to put it in the public domain of Wikipedia, I had to learn how to HTML code. I also had to gain community trust by editing small pieces of other articles. This photo is a small slice of coding that I used in order to resemble what my article would look like on Wikipedia. At this point, it does not look like much, just a bunch of letters and numbers put together. However, the next slide shows a small slice of my final result. My hard work this past semester has finally come full circle. From recognizing a problem, questioning why this was even a problem to begin with, and taking initiative to solve the problem. My code and article are currently in the process of being reviewed through Wikipedia, and hopefully they will become accessible to the general public soon. Thank you.